We are 2 weeks out, actually less than that for Arizona football. What do we know? What do we still not know as things get closer? Let's get started here on Locked On Wildcats.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. I'm your host, Mike Luke. All right, this show is brought to you today by FanDuel. Check it out. All kinds of good stuff at FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com. You know your money's good. You can bet on games. You can bet on all kinds of stuff at FanDuel, obviously, before, during, or futures, and you know your money is good. Check it out. All right, now, we are 2 weeks out from Arizona football's first game of the season, and we are going to talk about what we know. First, we need to talk a little bit about what has not transpired, and that is that the media is no longer allowed to report on practice. This is not difficult, people. There's a member of the media that does not get this, and from reporting out last year that Jedd Fisch was swearing at practice, to putting down injury notes, to asking Rich Rod about his daughter dating a player on the football team. He does not get it, and he ruins it for everybody else, and he does not seem to care. That is very annoying. So we cannot report on what we see at practice anymore. So we can basically go with what we've seen or what the coaches are telling us. Thanks a lot. But all right, so here are the things that we definitely do know about this team to this point. First, this coaching staff is very energetic, and they know the opportunity that is in front of them. And when I say they know the opportunity, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because first and foremost, that Brent Brennan is taking over a team that he knows has a lot of talent on it, and that is obviously a really, really good thing. This isn't the type of situation where a coach comes in and they don't have any talent. He's got talent across the board, which we are going to talk about here in just a minute. But it starts with the quarterback. Noah Fifita has been outstanding in camp. Before we can report on it. Thank you. But honestly, he had a very good control of the offense. He also had a very good, I think, understanding of everything that was going on with this team. And when Dino Babers took over, I think there were some questions. We're like, all right, what is he? How is this team going to look? Because again, you're bringing in a coach that offenses the last few years at Syracuse were not very good. Point blank, they just were not very good. You got a great quarterback in Noah Fifita, and I think it took about probably 5, 6, 7 practices to figure out that this was going to be a very, very happy marriage between the two. And I think what you were also excited about with Dino Babers is that he was very, very creative in how he's using a lot of these players. Again, he knows he has a loaded lineup, and he's going to utilize it. Noah Fifita is going to, I think, probably throw to the tight end even more than he did at this time. Not at this time last season. And even though you don't have somebody that'll probably be in the NFL in a year, maybe 2 years, Kean Burnett, wink, wink. But you do know that this is a roster that is loaded, that is ready for bear. Pardon the pun. But there has been a very smooth transition, and I think a big reason why is that both sides wanted it to work. Noah Fifita made it a point to let Brent Brennan and the coaching staff know that they wanted to come back, and it wasn't necessarily for them, but they wanted to be able to put it out there that they are all. They're backing Brent Brennan, and that was a big part of it. When they all came out there at that under-16 timeout at the U of A basketball game to announce they were coming back, that was a big, I think that was just a huge announcement to everybody that, hey, we're behind Brent Brennan, and they have returned it. Brent Brennan has talked about the offense that they ran at San Jose State and wanting to incorporate parts of it that fit in well with what Noah Fifita wants to do. Again, I think that this is obviously Brent Brennan is the coach, but I think this is also a marriage, though, that where both sides are trying to get the best out of each other. Where both sides, it's very much of a consultation because, let's be honest here. Noah Fifita has been a very, very good quarterback already at the U of A. When you are the National Freshman of the Year, you don't go about it and just say that, I don't really care about, that you're good. And when the chips are down, you know that Arizona football is good. Under Noah Fifita, he won a ton of games. And if Noah Fifita had played the entire season last year, this might have been this could have been a team that finished about 7th in the country, because you would have definitely beaten Mississippi State. And I think with USC and Washington, you could have won those games. Now, with Washington, it was very interesting because Noah started out the game shaky. Obviously, in the second half, he calmed down and he was good. USC, he was obviously great outside of that one turnover, but he would have had some more experience. Either way, that, his numbers, his, everything that he did last year spoke for itself. And this coaching staff would be wise to come in and not basically say, we're going to do what we want to do. This is the exact opposite of kind of the Khalil Tate. You're at least hoping this is kind of the exact opposite of the Khalil Tate, Kevin Sumlin marriage, where you had two people that were going in basically different directions on what that they are, two people going in the same wrong direction about what Khalil Tate could do. Khalil Tate could run the ball and occasionally throw the long pass. So what did they try to do? They tried to turn him into a pro-style quarterback. That was dumb. But a lot of that was on Khalil. That's another story, obviously. But so that marriage has looked really good. And you can just tell this the chemistry that Noah has had with his wide receivers. T-Mac was out to start camp, obviously, but T-Mac has looked really good. T-Mac, he is, and Noah said it that he thinks that you're going to see a lot of yards after catch from T-Mac this year. And it wouldn't surprise me. Honestly, I think what's kind of been surprising is just how effortlessly T-Mac has gotten back out on the football field. I think that there were some questions about how long would this take for T-Mac? Would he be able to get back everything that he had? And again, it might take him a little bit longer, but I think he's going to have an All-American season. With foot injuries, you always worry about how can a player come back from that. We saw that obviously with Jamari Joyner, but with T-Mac, the foot looks fine, and he's already making circus catches in the end zone. In my opinion, T-Mac is the best wide receiver in the country, and I don't even think that it is particularly close. He is that dude. He is that good. So the offense has been very, very good, and the tight ends, listen, the tight ends under Dino Babers, Brent Brennan should be very good. You got a ton of them that can all play. You got a ton of them that can all catch. And Kean Burnett is ready to make that next move. Kean Burnett is ready to become, I think, the player that so many people thought that he could be coming out of high school, where he was a USC commit. And where he was a mid-level, 4-star player that I think most people looked at and said this is an NFL type prospect. I think at Arizona it took him a little bit of time, but so far so good. And he's obviously one of those Servite players that I think was a little bit kind of forgotten about. And he is certainly shown. But I think the chemistry on offense, I think, is going to click very, very early in games. Also, I think that at the running back spot, those dudes, they're all beasts. We've talked about it. They all fit together. A big thing, obviously, and this kind of goes into the question marks, is the depth on the offensive line. I'm fine with the starters, totally fine with the starters. But what goes down then? If somebody does get injured, because there is a precipitous fall off, then this isn't something where you can bring in like you did last year Leif Magnuson and you feel good. There isn't really any of that. There's a lot of guys that are probably on second string that just really aren't that good, and I think that's going to be a little bit of a problem. But overall, there's a lot to like about the offense. We're going to continue to talk about that. But first, FanDuel, check it out. FanDuel. Wrong one. FanDuel, check it out, FanDuel.com, all kinds of good stuff. Listen, this day and age, you want to bet on sports, you want to know that your money is good. FanDuel says, come to us. We are good, and we will make sure that your money is good with us. FanDuel.com, again, this is one of these ones you will thank me later on it. All kinds of really, really good stuff. And football is here. Basketball is right around the corner. Now, if FanDuel got you through the regular betting, baseball and that, now you don't need to worry about any of that because the real sports are here. Check it out. FanDuel.com, another one of these ones where you will thank me later on it. All kinds of good stuff. FanDuel.com, again, football, basketball is here. Get in there and make the game fun and even more enjoyable. Check it out, FanDuel.com. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. Okay, now we've been talking about what we know, and that the offense in camp certainly looked like it clicked under Dino Babers. There is obviously the question mark about the offensive line. Now, I think one of the possible answers for one of those question marks is seeing a lot of two tight end sets. You see a lot of two tight end sets. I think that's going to make things a lot easier for players. But keep in mind, I think the concerns for this team, and it's weird to say this, are probably a little bit more in the interior at this point. We'll find out. But I got a lot of faith in Rhino. Rhino is still a question mark, but Rhino looked good in camp. Not only did Rhino look good in camp, Rhino also looked like he was ready to, be that player. And again, this is a player that had a lot of potential coming out of high school. He's a massive guy, and I think what surprised people is that he can move his feet fairly well. If he can move his feet well, and you got him and you got Jonah as your bookends, I think you feel pretty good about it. Josh Oglesby is obviously a very good offensive line coach. He's been fun to watch work with all these players, but so again, that's really my only question on the offense is the offensive line. Everything else is going to take care of itself. And not only is everything else going to take care of itself, I think you're going to see some players really emerge, like a Jeremiah Patterson, for example, somebody like that going along with T-Mac, everything. So now going over to the defensive side of the football, one thing we know about this team is that Duane Akina is fully invigorated. Watching Duane Akina, you can tell that he likes being out there, and you can tell that he is totally ready for all of this. And I think that's what really, really cool thing about this is that Duane Akina, just a guy that, listen, anybody that's watched Duane Akina knows that he's a dude that he lives, breathes, dies football. He's obviously been probably the best defensive backs coach in college football history, but this is also his opportunity to be able to run a defense. And I have all the faith in the world from him, because he's a dude that, he wants to have an aggressive defense. And I think that's always been something that with a defense last year, it was pretty good, but I think there were also some things too that were, that I think he would have done differently. I think he wants to get after the quarterback. And when I say he wants to get after the quarterback, I don't think he wants to merely just have his players hold edges and stuff. I think he wants to be able to go and be able to get after it. And that's where I'm excited to see exactly what they do. If he can get after the quarterback, that also will mitigate, I think, some of the smaller defensive tackles who are relying a little bit more on burst. That's obviously a question mark. What can Arizona get out of Kevon Darton? Can Kevon Darton be, can he be a real pass rushing force for Arizona? He was able to do a lot of really good stuff at Syracuse, but can that transfer over under Akina? He's going to want his players to get upfield. So we'll see exactly how that does play. I am going to put down that we know that Trey Smith is really good. I think a question mark, though, is just how good is he? Is he a top 100 type NFL draft pick? Can he get 8-9 sacks this year, get 60 tackles, be living in the backfield? And if he lives in the backfield, can he be a tremendous difference maker for the Cats? So again, he's very good, but I think the question is just how good is he? And we're going to find that out. Then you've got Chuba May, huge question mark. Now, when I say huge question mark, I mean it literally, a huge question mark, in that he's a huge dude. He played well at UC Davis. Obviously, though, that's UC Davis. We got to see how that transfers. He and Isaiah Johnson both played very well, and both have looked very good in camp. Isaiah Johnson, he's just had injury problems though, and he's just got to stay healthy. That's the big question mark, I think, for Isaiah Johnson is, can he stay healthy? If he can stay healthy, then I think that Arizona is going to be in very, very good shape, because he's looked good. And not only has he looked good, he's looked big, he's looked strong, and he's also shown kind of the ability to just kind of be able to be that run stuffer that that Arizona's looking for, but has the potential to get up the field as well. The backups, then, I think the backups are all question marks, obviously. We just talked about Darton Bear Anderson from Memphis. a little bit on the undersized side, but was a pretty good true freshman at Memphis last year. Can he continue? Can he get some of that magic going this year? If he can get that, then I think Arizona feels like Arizona's going to be in some really good shape. Now, a massive, massive question mark then for this team is who are the other pass rushers? Are they, and what can Arizona expect out of them? I don't really expect a ton out of Chase Kennedy. The thing again that we've talked about that just surprised me is how thin Chase Kennedy is. He is he's a skinny dude. I mean, he's got a Deuce Davis type build, but Deuce Davis also I think was was a better football player. Kennedy I think can help. But then after that, I think there's a lot of questions. And I don't know really what those answers are. We'll find that one out. But I think that's a question mark for the U of A is who are going to be those guys, and are they going to be, for Arizona, are they going to be able to be consistently good enough if somebody goes down, if a Trey Smith goes down or a Ty goes down, what's going to be that next step? Now, I think a big part of that next step will be Duane Akina, I think, is going to be very creative in how he gets after the quarterback. I mean, you saw that, I think you saw that last year. Jacob Manu, who is not one of the question marks, was able to get 6 sacks, was able to get after the passer. And I think you're going to continue to see that. I think you're going to see Duane Akina bring pressure from a lot of different angles. And I think that will help mitigate some of the defense. Question marks from the ends, being able to get that traditional pass rush. But again, you still got to see it. That's what I keep coming down to with a lot of this stuff. You still got to be able to see it. You got to be able to see it put out there on the football field. And if that does happen, then obviously Arizona's sitting well. That other linebacker spot next to Jacob Manu, Tay Brown or a Kamu. Who are those? Can one of those dudes really emerge? We'll find out. I'm not, I think you're going to see more of a Martell Irby, Owen Goss type, look where you've got another safety that's playing in the box a lot, that's being moved around. But we will not know until we'll not know obviously until we see it. I think it's going to be fascinating though to see how this all does play out. But at the linebacker, that other linebacker is a huge question mark for Arizona, but there's other ways to be able to mitigate some of that as well. Then obviously you've also got the secondary. I expect the secondary to be awesome. I think the one question mark is how good can Marquise Groves-Killebrew be? If Marquise Groves-Killebrew is really, really good, then Arizona is going to be very, very good. Because again, that would be an absolutely loaded secondary. He's a question mark though. I think there's obviously a lot of talent. He possesses a lot of talent, but can he also make that next step? Can he, look like the player that he was supposed to be coming out of high school? Because if he can look like that player that he was supposed to be coming out of high school, then you're dealing with an entirely different situation and something that I think Arizona can really take advantage of. That obviously, though, is the question mark. Everybody else, you know what Tacario Davis can do. You know what all of the safeties from Genesis Smith to Dalton Johnson to Gunnar Maldonado. I mean, heck, I don't want to, put it out there, but I think you feel pretty comfortable in saying that Owen Goss is going to be a good football player for Arizona as well. It's Marquise Groves-Killebrew. Can he be that dude? Again, you already know that you got Traden Stukes in there as well. So, those are kind of the questions. And again, when it comes to Duane Akina, I don't have any questions. You could say he hasn't called a defense. I get all that, but I look at the man's football knowledge. I look at his energy. I look at what Arizona football means to him. And I think that I think you feel very good about what he can do. Listen, Akina's the man. We talked about it, and I don't have a ton of concerns about that. Now, we're going to talk about the other facet of the game. But first, Game Time. Check it out. All right, here's the deal with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, at Game Time, it's fun because, again, you can get into a game, you can get into concerts, you can get in wherever you want, and a lot of times it's going to be cheaper. So download the Game Time app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply again, but at Game Time, this is, Game Time's great. I know a lot of people that have used Game Time. You should use it as well because it will make your life easier. It will make your life more enjoyable. So again, download the Game Time app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now let's talk a little bit about the special teams. The special teams to me is fascinating. Listen, Tyler Loop, I love Tyler Loop. Tyler Loop is a great kicker. Absolutely love everything that Tyler Loop brings to the table. I think the question that you do have, though, is that punter. Right now, I don't think it's going to be Lackland Bruce. I think a lot of people thought that it was going to be Lackland Bruce, but I don't think that it's going to be Lackland Bruce. I think he's going to be, I think you're looking at a Segaldo Medina, and if that's the case, we'll see. But obviously you don't have Kyle Ostendorp. This is somebody that I think we probably took for granted, or maybe not took for granted, but, he did a lot of good stuff while he was here. So the punter is one. I look for this team to be very, very good in the kick return, very good in the kick return game. Not only do I look for this team to be very good, I think you got a coaching staff that wants to utilize it. I think that Jeremiah Patterson is going to be a dynamic punt returner. I think that Speedy Luke, getting the ball in his hands and just seeing what he can do, I think that's another thing that that Arizona fans should be pretty excited about. So again, they're questions, but I think at the same time, you also don't necessarily worry about them because, again, I think that there's upside there. So we'll see how that plays out. But overall, don't like I said, those are what we know. Those are the strengths. Those are some of the question marks as well. So we will see how all of that plays out. Obviously, we can't report again what's going on in practice, but again, this just comes down to common sense. This isn't doing stupid things or asking questions that have no relevancy or just basically not adhering to basic rules is something that affects everybody. So again, don't report that a coach is swearing at practice. Gets everybody in trouble. Stop doing that. Stop trying to be Carl Bernstein on every single issue. It is annoying. Okay, now, on that note, though, tomorrow and the next day, we're going to continue, obviously, to talk about Arizona football. We're going to talk about some of the leaders on this football team, who's really emerged, and just kind of what those expectations are. And then a little bit later on in the week, we're going to talk Arizona basketball again. We talked about it. Nick Kamania going to be visiting the University of Arizona. And while this is a player that I think is probably going to end up at Gonzaga, I also, listen, you get a kid on campus, you can always change his mind. That's why I think that it's going to, I think Tommy Lloyd needs a big year from the 2025 recruiting class. And listen, he's done a great job in the portal, but you got to continue to be able to make all of that work. But again, we are in football mode. We are less than 2 weeks out. And then honestly, we're less than a month out from a massive, massive game at Kansas State. If Arizona can win that game, then I think you're really looking at a different animal. Then you got Utah. So there's a lot to like about that. But no better time to be a Wildcat fan. No better time, obviously, to back the A. So, again, that's what we're going to talk about. And the possibility. Can 2023 be better than 2020 or 2024 be better than 23? Arizona finished 11th in the country. I don't know why they can't necessarily. So we're going to talk about that as well. But all kinds of optimism around here. Outside of the one elephant in the room we talked about a couple times during the show. But as always, very much appreciate you all making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. Again, 2 weeks out, get your tickets. It's going to be fun to be out there. Bear down, back the A. Thanks for making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day, and we will talk with you tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day.